Chapter 1. The Light in the Valley. In a hidden valley surrounded by majestic mountains lay the small village of Liora. It was a place seemingly lost in time. No noisy streets, no bustling crowds, only the gentle murmur of a clear brook winding through green meadows and the whispering of trees reaching for the sky. The houses were made of wood and stone, passed down from generation to generation, and smelled of warm smoke and fresh bread. What made Liora special was not the beauty of the landscape, but the light that lived in every house and in every heart. This light was invisible to outsiders, but for the villagers, it was as tangible as the warmth of the sun on their skin. It was a light of kindness, trust, and helpfulness. Everyone knew the ancestors' stories, which taught that this inner glow was the most precious gift a person could possess. Elias was a young man from Liora who lived with his parents in a small house on the edge of the village. He was known for his friendly nature, curious eyes, and desire to see the good in everything. Since childhood, he had learned that the light in the heart was not only for oneself, but for everyone. That morning, as the sun rose over the mountains and the first birds began to sing, Elias felt a restlessness within himself. The village seemed quieter than usual, as if everyone was holding their breath. At the central square, the elders gathered, their faces serious and lined with deep worry. Elias stepped closer and listened to words like change, world outside, distant cities, which sounded foreign yet tempting. A wanderer had arrived, bringing news from the world beyond. His stories spoke of flickering lights, tall towers of glass and steel, machines that made work faster and easier, and crowds of people flowing endlessly through houses and streets. The villagers listened spellbound, some with sparkling eyes full of hope, others with skepticism and concern. The light in their hearts began to flicker as the stranger's words disturbed the familiar peace. Elias watched the wanderer, whose name no one really knew. He was dressed in simple but elegant clothes, spoke with a voice both gentle and confident. His eyes shone like stars, yet there was a spark Elias couldn't quite understand. In the evening, as the stars twinkled in the sky and the village was wrapped in a silent veil, Elias sat by the fire with his parents and friends. The conversations revolved around the wanderer's stories, and the question kept returning: should we stay as we are, or dare to enter the new world? Elias felt the weight of this decision heavily on his shoulders. He loved Liora, his family, the familiar faces, even and the light that bound them all. Yet the longing to see more, to understand more, had awakened deeply within him. Chapter 2. The Wanderer's Temptation. Days passed, and the wanderer increasingly became the center of attention in the village of Liora. His words painted pictures of a world full of possibilities, where technology and progress made life easier, and where dreams, it seemed, could come true. Many villagers began to ask questions they had never asked before. Could there be more than the quiet life in the valley? Was their little village really the end of the world, or just the beginning of a larger journey? Elias felt an invisible force pulling him repeatedly toward the wanderer. The stories of distant glitter made his heart beat faster, awakening hopes and also fears. He began to doubt whether the light that his village so proudly kept was strong enough to withstand a world full of novelties. One evening, as the sun slowly set behind the mountains and bathed the village in golden colors, Elias made up his mind to seek out the wanderer. He wanted to hear with his own ears what awaited him beyond the mountains. The wanderer welcomed him in a small hut at the edge of the forest, where a fire crackled and the air smelled of spices and faraway lands. His eyes sparkled in the firelight as Elias entered. "You seek answers, young friend," said the wanderer with a knowing smile. "The world is big, and those who dare, win." Elias nodded, uncertain but determined. "Tell me more about this world, about the cities, the people, the machines you spoke of." The wanderer began to tell vivid stories of tall buildings reaching the sky, of machines faster than horses, of people connected all over the world. He spoke of wealth, fame, and the possibility to achieve anything one wished. The words were like magic, and Elias felt enchanted. But amidst all the temptations, he also sensed a quiet voice within him asking, "What will become of your village, of the light that burns there?" "The light?" the wanderer said mockingly. "In the big world, only power and influence count. What you have here may be beautiful, but it does not withstand the storm of progress. Elias struggled with himself. Should he leave his home to seek a new life, or should he stay and fight for what he knew? In the following days, unrest gripped the village. Some wanted to leave with the wanderer, others clung to the old values. The light in people's hearts began to flicker and fade. Elias knew a decision was coming that would change not only his life, but the lives of all Liora's inhabitants. Chapter 3. The Shadows of Change. In the days after Elias's visit to the Wanderer, the village of Liora felt a change spreading like a quiet shadow over the people. Familiar faces appeared thoughtful, some even worried or irritated. The light that had once shone so brightly in their hearts now began to flicker and almost go out in some. Elias himself felt torn. Two forces raged within him, the longing for the world beyond the mountains and the love for his village and roots. He tried to speak with friends and family, but opinions were divided. Some saw change as an opportunity, others as a threat. Groups gathered more and more frequently at the marketplace, engaging in heated discussions. "We cannot live in the past forever," some cried. "Are we not being overtaken by time?" Others replied, "What use is progress if we lose our soul?" The wanderer skillfully moved among the people, talking to the seekers and sowing doubt in the hearts of those who believed firmly in the light. He was not an outright villain, but a master of words who knew how to steer the fears and hopes of people. One evening, a quarrel broke out between two old friends who had once been inseparable. They argued over the right path for the village and nearly lost the friendship they had shared since childhood. Elias watched this with a heavy heart. He knew the way back to unity could only come through a new awareness, through the recognition that true light is not found in outward things, but in togetherness and self-respect. He began to tell stories of the ancestors, of times when the village had endured severe trials because it stood together. He spoke of forgiveness, trust, and that each person was part of a greater whole. Slowly, some villagers began to gather again, finding comfort in shared memories and in faith in the light that lay dormant deep within them. But the doubts and temptations of the distant world were not yet banished. Change had cast its shadow, and Elias knew the greatest trial was yet to come. Chapter 4. The Storm. Weeks passed, and the village of Liora seemed lost between two worlds. Some built upon the old light, others saw in the wanderer's promises a new future. Tensions grew, and the once familiar paths between the houses grew quiet. Then came the storm. It was not just an ordinary storm with rain and wind, but a tempest unlike any the valley had seen for decades. The clouds piled threateningly, the sky darkened, and lightning tore through the air with deafening thunder. The water in the brook rose endlessly, and the wind tore at roofs and trees. Many houses were damaged, supplies destroyed, and the land they had carefully tended lay underwater. Panic spread, and old fears returned. But in the midst of this destruction, Elias stepped forward, his voice firm and clear. "This is the test the ancestors spoke of. It is not the storm that has shaken us, but we have lost in our hearts. If we do not stand together, we are lost." The villagers looked at each other, seeing the despair, but also the will in their neighbors' eyes. They realized their true light could only shine together. Hands joined, voices rose in a common song, and slowly rebuilding began. Elias led, organizing work, comforting the weak, and encouraging the fearful. The wanderer, who had once come from outside, now stood silently at the edge. His plans ebbed away in the face of the strength flowing from the community. The light in Liora burned brighter than ever, not as a flickering torch, but as a steady fire, fueled by unity, love, and forgiveness.